The chamber of the Intergalactic Council was a spectacle that defied imagination. Spanning a kilometer in diameter, the room's ceiling shimmered like liquid crystal, reflecting the light of distant stars as if the galaxy itself had been folded into its architecture. Alien delegates of every conceivable shape and form hovered, levitated, or strutted around the colossal circular table. Tentacles, wings, translucent skin, and multiple eyes glimmered with authority. The air hummed with the quiet power of civilizations older than Earth itself. At the center of the table, a raised platform held the human delegation. Unlike their peers, they looked small, fragile even. Their ambassador, Leora Venn, stood tall in her sharply tailored uniform, but her heart pounded in her chest. She was the youngest ambassador to ever speak in the council, and today she represented the entire human species. A species that, in the eyes of the galaxy, was insignificant, unremarkable, and dangerously primitive. The discussion had begun hours earlier, centered on the escalating tensions between emerging civilizations and the threat of unchecked expansion into neutral territories. The aliens had long assumed humanity would have no voice in the matter. They were correct until now. High Chancellor Zirith, a being with translucent, prismatic skin that refracted the room's light into dizzying colors, leaned forward, his many eyes narrowing on the humans. His voice resonated through the chamber, a low vibration that felt like it penetrated bone. The humans, what do they offer? Their technology is rudimentary. Their fleets cannot defend even a single sector. Why are they here? A ripple of laughter passed through the other delegates. Wings fluttered, scales rattled, and tentacles twitched in amusement. Leora felt the weight of their derision, the centuries of condescension compressed into a single moment. But she did not respond, not yet. Silence, she knew, could be more powerful than words. Humans had learned that in the face of overwhelming odds, patience and observation could be weapons sharper than any laser or plasma cannon. They had survived on Earth for thousands of years, overcoming predators, disasters, and even themselves. And now, the universe would begin to understand that survival had taught them more than any alien empire could ever imagine. Another delegate, a massive, armored creature named Zytrax of Kaelnari, snorted through what could only be called a nasal cavity, causing the floor to tremble. They are insignificant. Perhaps they should remain silent, as is their place. His laughter was a deep rumble that made several smaller delegates shiver. Leora's fingers tightened around the edge of her console. For years, humans had been underestimated. Their fleets were modest, yes, but what the aliens failed to comprehend was humanity's greatest strength: their unpredictability. Unlike species that relied on uniformity, hierarchy, or sheer brute force, humans were adaptable, resourceful, and willing to risk everything to protect their own. She allowed herself a moment to glance around the chamber. The delegates were confident, arrogant even. They had all assumed that the humans would remain silent, incapable of influencing the council. Yet, she could see tiny signs of unease in some of the younger delegates, curious eyes flicking toward her. Perhaps some had begun to wonder why this fragile species had been allowed to speak at all. The council moved on to voting procedures, discussing which planets would be placed under stricter regulations and which civilizations could expand unchecked. Humans had no fleets, no interstellar armies, no weapons capable of conquest. Leora remained seated, her silence a stark contrast to the vocal, flamboyant arguments erupting around her. Then came the proposal that made her stomach tighten. A coalition of ancient species suggested that Earth be annexed for resource extraction. The plan was cold, bureaucratic, and utterly dismissive of humanity itself. The chair of the council, a luminous being named Ilarion, droned on, "The planet's population is primitive. Their defense is minimal. Annexation can proceed without resistance. Any human protest is irrelevant." Leora's breath hitched, but she maintained her composure. Humanity had been patient for centuries, observing the council's politics, learning the strengths and weaknesses of every major power. They had remained silent not because they lacked courage, but because they had been waiting for the right moment. That moment, she realized, might finally be approaching. As discussions continued, whispers floated through the chamber about humans' potential. None of the council had seen their true capabilities, not in combat, not in strategy, not in diplomacy. They had dismissed humanity as weak, unworthy, and inconsequential. But history had a way of punishing arrogance, and Leora knew that lesson would soon be learned in ways the council could not predict. Hours passed. Votes were cast. Plans for Earth's annexation were formalized on paper, yet the human delegation said nothing. The silence was deafening, a quiet storm that contrasted sharply with the clamor around the room. For the council it seemed like submission. For humans it was calculated restraint, a quiet before the storm. Finally, High Chancellor Zirith leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing across his many eyes. Humans are patient, I will give them that. But perhaps they lack the courage to speak. Perhaps they are truly insignificant. At that moment, Leora's communicator buzzed discreetly. She ignored it at first, unwilling to break the ritual of silence. But when the signal persisted, she allowed herself to glance at the encrypted message flashing on the device. Your children are not safe. Cooperate or they will be the first to fall. Her blood ran cold. The aliens had underestimated humanity for centuries, but now they had made a personal mistake. They had threatened something that no human could ever ignore. Leora straightened her posture, her calm exterior masking a storm within. The council had believed silence meant submission. They were wrong. Humanity's silence had been deliberate, but now the time for observation had ended. The time for action had come. As the chamber lights dimmed slightly to signal the end of the session, the delegates began to rise, chattering among themselves. Leora stayed seated, her eyes fixed on the holographic map of Earth floating above the table. Every city, every colony, every child now represented a promise. A vow that humanity would protect its own no matter the cost. And for the first time in the Council's long history, a sense of unease began to ripple through its members. The humans may have seemed fragile, insignificant, and unarmed. But their silence had been a lie, a deliberate, dangerous lie. One day the Council would learn the true meaning of humanity. And when they did, the universe itself would be forced to listen. The Council chamber emptied slowly, delegates drifting back to their ships or private chambers, their confidence still intact, or so they believed. Leora Venn remained seated, her gaze locked on the holographic map of Earth. The encrypted message still glowed softly on her console. Your children are not safe. Cooperate or they will be the first to fall. Her mind raced. Threats against humanity's children were unprecedented. No alien race had ever dared to target the innocent on Earth, not yet. The message was brief, cold, and efficient, but the implications were monstrous. Humanity had endured famine, war, and plague on its own planet. But the idea of someone deliberately threatening its children, its future, was a line that could never be crossed. She tapped the console, attempting to trace the message. The encryption was sophisticated, layered with technology only the oldest civilizations could produce. Whoever had sent it had both power and knowledge, and they wanted her to feel fear. But fear was a tool humans had mastered long ago. Leora breathed deeply, forcing calm into her voice as she spoke to the empty chamber. They think they can intimidate us, but they don't understand who we are. Across the galaxy, humanity's intelligence network stirred into life. While the Council had dismissed humans as insignificant, they had underestimated a truth older than their fleets. Humans had survived because they could adapt faster than any other species. Where other civilizations relied on brute force, rigid hierarchies, or sheer size, humans relied on ingenuity, creativity, and unpredictability. They could think outside patterns, improvise in chaos, and unite when everything else seemed lost. In orbit above Earth, Commander Yarrick Solon monitored the situation. Once a celebrated astronaut, now a strategist and covert operations leader, he had built the Human Vanguard, a network of operatives, scientists, and engineers capable of responding to threats no one else could anticipate. The alert from Leora's device triggered immediate action. Deploy the reconnaissance drones, Yarrick ordered, his voice calm but precise. Trace the signal. Find its source. And prepare defensive protocols. I don't want anyone underestimating what happens next. On the planet below, human families carried on with their lives, unaware of the invisible threat looming in the stars. Children played in parks, laughed in schools, and slept peacefully in homes scattered across continents. And yet, Yarrick knew that within hours, or even minutes, those innocent lives could be imperiled by a civilization that had dared to mistake humanity's silence for weakness. The first trace of the message's origin came from an unexpected place, a long-abandoned communication satellite orbiting a distant moon in the Sol system. It had been dormant for decades, thought destroyed in an old interplanetary war. Yet the signal had passed through its systems, masking its origin and making it appear as though it came from nowhere. They're clever, Yarrick murmured, studying the data. But humans have always thrived against clever opponents. They're about to find out the hard way what happens when you threaten what we love most. Meanwhile, in a secret chamber deep beneath the Earth's surface, Leora convened an emergency council of human leaders. Scientists, military officers, and intelligence experts gathered, their faces tense but resolute. The room buzzed with the energy of action, a stark contrast to the passive, polite deliberations that had filled the Intergalactic Council. "We don't know who sent this," Leora explained, her voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "But we do know one thing: they threatened our children. And no one, no alien empire, no council, no fleet, has the right to do that. We respond now. Not later. Not with caution. But with everything we have." A murmur ran through the room. Unlike the council, humans did not hesitate when their own were at risk. Unlike the aliens, humans were not restrained by protocol, tradition, or fear of public embarrassment. Where others calculated consequences, humans calculated survival, and the protection of the next generation was a priority beyond calculation. Yarrick stepped forward, his presence commanding. "We'll activate Project Aegis," he said. "Orbital defenses, AI systems, and covert reconnaissance networks will be online within the hour. We may not know who sent this, but we will make sure they never reach our children." He looked at Leora, a spark of determination in his eyes. "They thought our silence was weakness. They were wrong. Humanity has patience, strategy, and ingenuity on its side. And we will prove that patience has limits." As the human teams moved into action, Leora returned to the Council's holographic records. She studied the other civilizations' fleets, noting patterns, alliances, and vulnerabilities. The aliens had believed their technological superiority would intimidate Earth. Yet what they did not account for was the humans' ability to turn weakness into advantage, scarcity into strategy, and silence into a weapon. For centuries, humanity had observed the galaxy quietly. They had cataloged strengths, weaknesses, tendencies, and arrogance of countless species. And now, that knowledge would be weaponized, not for conquest but for survival. Hours passed in tense preparation. Satellites activated, orbital shields glimmered faintly around major cities, and AI algorithms calculated billions of scenarios in seconds. Every precaution, every contingency, every possible threat vector was accounted for. Yet even as humans prepared, there was a sense of anticipation, a thrill running through every operative. They had always been underestimated. And they had always risen stronger because of it. Then, just before midnight Earth time, the first signals of the threat became visible. Unidentified fleets, far smaller than anything in the Council's records, were moving toward the Sol system. Their ships were sleek, fast, and heavily armed, designed to strike precisely and vanish. It was a warning, and it was personal. Jarrek's team tracked their approach. "They're testing us," he said. "They want to see how quickly we react. But they don't know what humans are capable of when our families are threatened." Back in the chamber beneath the Earth's surface, Leora's fingers hovered over the command console. The holographic map of incoming threats pulsed red as the alien fleet drew nearer. She glanced at the list of human children scattered across Earth, her own included, and a fire ignited within her. Silence had ended. Observation had ended. Humanity's moment had begun. She spoke, her voice calm but resonant. "We were silent for centuries. We observed. We learned. But if anyone threatens our children, they will discover something the galaxy has never understood. Humans are unstoppable when protecting what is ours. Prepare for countermeasures. And let them remember this day." A hush fell over the command room. Every human operative, every scientist, every strategist understood the unspoken truth. This was no longer a council matter. This was personal. And humanity would not fail. Above, in the darkness of space, the alien scouts continued their approach. Below, on Earth, humanity's defenses waited, unseen but lethal. And somewhere, deep in the Council's records, the echoes of human silence lingered, a calm before the storm that would change the galaxy forever. The universe had underestimated humans for the last time. The first signs of movement came quietly, almost imperceptibly. Distant blips on orbital scanners, slight distortions in space near the outer edges of the Sol system, and the faint hum of energy readings, enough to make even the most experienced analysts uneasy. For the humans monitoring these signals, it was a confirmation. The threat was real and it was close. Commander Yarrick Solon stood in the center of the orbital command station, his eyes scanning the holographic projection of incoming alien vessels. Each ship was sleek, designed for speed and precision, armed with weapons calibrated to cause maximum devastation with minimal exposure. Most civilizations would have panicked at the sight, but Jarrek's lips pressed into a thin line. Fear was useless. Action was everything. "Status report," he commanded, his voice echoing in the chamber. Lieutenant Mira Kale, a strategist who had once been a robotics engineer, stepped forward. "Orbital shields are at 68% capacity. AI targeting arrays are fully operational. Recon drones are deployed along predicted approach paths. All contingency protocols for civilian evacuation are online. Yarrick nodded. Good. Begin activating the hidden defense grids. I don't want a single alien vessel reaching Earth's atmosphere. This is our line in the sand. Meanwhile, deep underground in the Human Command Center, Leora Ven coordinated communications between Earth orbital stations and the fleet of recon units silently orbiting the outer planets. Her calm demeanor masked the storm within. Humanity had long observed the Council and their fleets, cataloging every pattern, every predictable maneuver. The aliens had assumed silence meant weakness, but humans had learned patience, and patience was a weapon far deadlier than any laser cannon. Deploy Project Aegis, Leora ordered, her voice unwavering. The command was code for a full-scale activation of humanity's hidden defense network, satellite arrays, orbital weapon systems, AI-controlled drones, and even the covertly stationed interstellar craft previously thought to be experimental prototypes. In the skies above Earth, the first waves of reconnaissance drones zipped into action. Small, agile, and nearly invisible to conventional sensors, they moved in patterns impossible for the aliens to predict. They fed real-time data to the AI systems controlling orbital defenses, mapping vulnerabilities in the incoming ship's shields and weapon systems. Every movement, every pulse, every energy signature was recorded. Humanity's response was precise, deliberate, and terrifying in its efficiency. Yarrick turned to his second-in-command, Terran Voss, a former test pilot with a reputation for calm under fire. They think they can intimidate us with speed and firepower, he said. But they've never faced humans defending their own. Remember this, every calculation they've made assumes we'll react predictably. We won't. Terran's eyes sparkled with grim determination. Then let's remind them what unpredictability looks like. On the surface, human civilians remained unaware of the battle unfolding above. Children slept in their beds, teenagers walked home from school, families dined together, all oblivious to the alien threat threading through the solar system. Yet even as humanity's defenders mobilized, this innocence was the core of their resolve. Humans did not fight for glory or conquest. They fought to protect life, to safeguard the future, to ensure that their children would inherit a universe where they could dream freely. In the orbital command station, Yarrick and Leora watched the first engagement unfold. The alien fleet had begun to probe Earth's defenses, sending small attack pods to test the satellites and drone arrays. But the humans were ready. A coordinated strike from multiple drones intercepted the pods before they could fire, sending them tumbling into the void. The orbital AI calculated trajectories faster than any alien pilot could react. Within minutes, every probe sent toward Earth was neutralized with surgical precision. Impressive, Yarrick murmured, allowing a small smile. They underestimated our patience, and they're about to learn that patience is not weakness. Leora nodded. She tapped a sequence into her console, activating secondary measures. Hidden defense grids that had been constructed in secret on the Moon and Mars, energy barriers designed to absorb, redirect, and even repurpose alien weaponry. The humans had no need for overwhelming numbers. They relied on ingenuity, improvisation, and adaptability. What the aliens perceived as weakness was, in fact, the foundation of unstoppable power. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Council watched events unfold on their monitors, expecting to see the humans crushed. Instead, they saw chaos, but not the chaos they intended. The alien attack pods vanished into space, neutralized by unseen hands. Ships attempting to advance toward Earth were met with energy pulses that seemed almost alive, dodging, weaving, and retaliating in ways that no conventional AI or strategy could predict. Whispers rippled through the Council chambers. How are they doing this?" asked one delegate, a being with 4 arms and crystalline armor. The answer was terrifying in its simplicity. Humans were fighting not just with machines but with their will, their ingenuity, and their relentless desire to protect what was theirs. Back on Earth, Leora made a decision. It was time to escalate. She activated the orbital communication channels to broadcast a direct message to the alien fleet. "We are not powerless. We are not weak. Threaten our children, and the consequences will echo across the stars." The transmission, amplified across frequencies impossible for any conventional system to jam, caused visible hesitation among the alien commanders. They had assumed the humans were primitive, unarmed, and predictable. Instead, they were faced with a species that combined intelligence, strategy, and raw emotional resolve in ways they could not calculate. "Prepare for counteroffensive maneuvers," Yarrick instructed. Not to destroy indiscriminately but to show them that attacking Earth, or our children, is a mistake they will never repeat. The first alien vessel attempted to breach the orbital shields. It fired a pulse designed to cut through energy barriers. The pulse was absorbed, redirected, and reflected back toward the approaching fleet. Within moments, the attacking ship was disabled without a single human casualty. Humans, muttered an alien observer aboard a council vessel. They're different, unpredictable. Exactly, thought Leora. Different enough to survive. Different enough to teach the galaxy a lesson it had long ignored. Humanity had been silent for centuries in the council, observing, learning, waiting. But silence had never been submission. And now the silence had ended. From deep beneath Earth's surface, from orbital stations, and from hidden bases scattered across the solar system, humanity rose. Not as conquerors, not as aggressors, but as protectors. And in that moment, the galaxy realized that underestimation could be fatal. Leora turned to Yarrick, her eyes blazing. They threatened our children. Now they will know what it means to threaten humanity. Yarrick smiled faintly. And this is only the beginning. Above them, the first real battle lines were drawn, not in conquest but in defense. And as humans awakened fully to the threat, one thing became abundantly clear. The era of underestimating Earth was over. Back in the grand chamber of the Intergalactic Council, the atmosphere had shifted. Delegates who had laughed at the humans' perceived weakness now whispered uneasily. Screens across the council displayed streams of real-time data from Earth's orbital defenses and intelligence networks. Alien observers had expected chaos, surrender, or panic, but what they saw instead was something almost alien in itself: precision, coordination, and an unshakable will. High Chancellor Ziritha's translucent skin shimmered unevenly, a subtle sign of agitation among his species. This is not possible, he muttered. They cannot respond so efficiently. Their fleets are non-existent. Their technology is primitive, and yet. His many eyes darted across the holographic displays, each one reflecting disbelief. Ilarion, the council's chair, pressed his fingers together. They have activated orbital defenses, satellite drones, and energy arrays we did not account for. Their reaction time is astonishing. We must reconsider our stance. But some delegates remained arrogant, unwilling to admit error. Zytrax of Kael'nari slammed a massive claw against the council table. Nonsense. They are insignificant. This display is theatrics, perhaps interference by other allied species. The humans are still weak. I refuse to believe they can defend their entire planet from our fleets. Leora Ven's voice cut through the murmurs, calm yet firm. She had activated a live communication feed to the council chamber, her image projected in the center of the grand room. You believed we were weak because we remained silent. You believed patience meant submission. You were wrong. Humanity fights not for power, not for conquest, but to protect life. Our families, our children, our home. The room fell silent. Not one delegate dared interrupt her. Her image flickered slightly as her ship-based communication systems relayed the events in Earth orbit. Alien probes neutralized before reaching the atmosphere, small attack vessels disabled by intelligent AI countermeasures, orbital drones weaving unpredictably between enemy ships. Each display contradicted the Council's assumptions about humans, and each contradiction fueled unease among the delegates. A younger delegate from the Vorin Collective, a species of sleek, metallic-skinned beings known for their arrogance, whispered to their neighbor, they anticipated everything. Every maneuver. Every strike. How is this possible? Leora did not answer directly. Instead, she leaned slightly forward, her eyes glinting with conviction. You underestimated us because you could not comprehend our strength. But strength is not just in technology, fleets, or numbers. Strength is in ingenuity, in adaptability, in unity, and above all, in our will to protect what we love. Ziritha's many eyes narrowed. He had faced civilizations far older than humanity, civilizations that had waged wars across galaxies. None had ever demonstrated the kind of coordinated defense and strategic thinking humans displayed tonight. He spoke slowly, carefully choosing each word. You claim these are defensive actions. Yet the precision, the timing, the unpredictability, it defies logic. It challenges everything we have known. Leora's image on the projection remained unwavering. Then allow me to make this perfectly clear. This is only the beginning. Threaten our children again or endanger our people, and the consequences will extend far beyond what you can calculate. Silence may have served us for centuries, but silence is no longer our weapon. Action is. A murmur ran through the council chamber. Delegates began consulting privately, analyzing the data streams. The Vorin collective murmured again. They predicted every maneuver, yet have no fleet to speak of. No large-scale weapon systems. How can a primitive species accomplish this? Ilarion raised a hand to still the room. We must not make the mistake of underestimating them further. Our preliminary analysis indicates the humans possess a combination of AI integration, adaptive strategy, and something more. Something uniquely human that our calculations cannot predict. Perhaps their ingenuity or their will. Zytrax slammed the table again, fury etched into his massive frame. It is preposterous. They are still insignificant. You all cower before a primitive species. This is unacceptable. Leora's voice cut through the tension once more, sharper this time. Insignificant? We were the species you laughed at, dismissed, and ignored. And yet, here we stand, defending our planet against your fleets, against your assumptions, against your arrogance. Every calculation you made about us was wrong, and every mistake has been your own. Humanity remains underestimated at your peril. For the first time, the Council sensed a tangible shift. The humans were not merely defending, they were demonstrating mastery over unpredictability. Alien fleets had advanced weapons, centuries of experience, and vast numbers, yet their every move had been anticipated, countered, or repurposed. In a single day, humans had proven that strategy, intelligence, and willpower could outweigh raw technological superiority. Zirith finally spoke, his voice low and measured. Perhaps we misjudged them. Perhaps patience, observation, and ingenuity, traits we dismissed as primitive, are their greatest weapons. Leora's eyes glimmered, though her face remained calm. You have not yet seen the full extent of our capabilities. What you witnessed today was a warning. Humanity does not seek war, but if you threaten us again, you will learn why we were never silent by accident. Ilarion nodded gravely. Then let this council recognize a new reality. Humans cannot be underestimated. Their defense, their coordination, and their will are unlike anything in the records. We must approach with caution and respect. Otherwise, we risk a confrontation far beyond what any of us anticipated. The chamber buzzed with tension. Delegates who had once dismissed Earth now reconsidered their strategies. The youngest species in the galaxy had revealed a truth that even the oldest empires had overlooked. Humans were not just survivors, they were adaptive, unpredictable, and unyielding when defending their own. Leora's image lingered as the feed ended, leaving the council in stunned silence. For centuries, humans had been patient observers. Now, the galaxy was learning for the first time that their patience was not weakness, it was preparation. And in that preparation lay the seed of a force that no civilization could ignore. Zytrax finally roared in frustration, but his words were drowned out by the murmurs of agreement and fear spreading through the council. The humans had not attacked first. They had defended. And in defending they had announced a simple truth to the galaxy. Underestimate humanity at your own risk. For the first time in intergalactic history, a species so young and so small had commanded respect through intellect, strategy, and courage alone. The Council's underestimation had ended, and with it the balance of power had shifted, forever. The calm before the storm lasted only minutes. Across the outer reaches of the Sol system, alien fleets shifted into formation, sleek warships cutting through the void with lethal precision. The vessels were designed for speed, efficiency, and destruction, each capable of annihilating entire cities with a single strike. Their commanders assumed humanity's defenses would crumble under the first wave of assault. They were wrong. On Earth, alarms began to hum quietly across orbital stations, signaling the approach of the alien fleet. Commander Yarrick Solon stood in the central operations hub, his eyes fixed on the holographic projection of approaching ships. Each was plotted, each trajectory calculated, yet Yarrick knew the true advantage was not numbers, it was human ingenuity. They think fear will break us, he said to Lieutenant Miracale, who stood beside him. They think overwhelming force will force surrender. They don't understand that humanity fights differently. We fight to protect, not to conquer. Mira nodded, her fingers flying across the control panel. All orbital drones in position. Defense grids at full power. Project Aegis ready for activation. They won't even touch the atmosphere. The first alien strike came with terrifying precision. A swarm of pods separated from the main fleet, accelerating toward Earth at unimaginable speed. They were designed to bypass conventional defenses, piercing shields and delivering devastation in seconds. But as they approached, human drones intercepted them. Small, agile, and unpredictably maneuvering, the drones split into coordinated swarms. Each alien pod fired, but the energy pulses were redirected, absorbed, and even reversed by hidden satellite arrays. Within minutes, every attack pod was neutralized, tumbling harmlessly into space. Above, the main fleet hesitated. Their commanders were stunned. No civilization had ever defended so efficiently without massive fleets or superweapons. Every probe they launched had been countered. Every maneuver anticipated. Humanity's defenses were alive, adaptive, and unlike anything they had ever faced. From Earth's command center, Leora Ven observed the battle unfold. She tapped a sequence on her console, activating secondary defenses hidden on the Moon and Mars, energy barriers and drone platforms that had remained secret for decades. The humans' advantage was not brute force but creativity. Their strength was not just in machines, but in their ability to think beyond expectation. "They underestimated us," she murmured. "They assumed silence was weakness. They were wrong. Humanity does not wait for victory, we create it." As the alien fleet adjusted its strategy, they attempted a concentrated assault on the orbital shield above Earth's most populated cities. Dozens of massive energy beams cut through space, aimed at targets across the globe. The humans responded instantly. AI-controlled satellites, programmed with predictive algorithms based on centuries of observing alien patterns, activated countermeasures. Energy pulses diverted the beams harmlessly into space. Atmospheric shielding absorbed and dissipated residual power. Orbital drones created moving decoys, forcing the fleet to fire blindly. For every attack launched, human systems responded tenfold, neutralizing the threat without a single civilian casualty. Commander Yarrick allowed himself a brief smile. "Every fleet has an assumption," he said. "Theirs was that we would react predictably. They've learned the hard way that humans cannot be predicted." The alien commanders, observing the chaos, grew frantic. Ships collided with one another in miscalculated maneuvers, energy beams clashed, and communication channels filled with alarms. Their fleet, once confident, now struggled against an opponent they had dismissed as primitive. From deep beneath Earth, Leora authorized a carefully calculated counterstrike. Hidden drones and small orbital craft, previously undetectable, began intercepting larger alien vessels. Without engaging in mass destruction, humanity disabled key systems, creating confusion and forcing retreat. Their goal was not annihilation, it was deterrence. A clear message: threaten Earth or its children and the consequences would be severe. In the midst of the battle, Yarrick glanced at Leora. "They thought this would be easy," he said. "They assumed humans were defenseless. Instead, we've proven what happens when a species fights for its own." Leora's eyes glimmered. "And this is only the beginning. They underestimated us for centuries, and today, they will learn why humanity's patience has limits." The alien fleet, now aware that continued assault risked catastrophic losses, attempted a retreat. But humans had anticipated this as well. Orbital drones shadowed the retreating vessels, recording every movement, every tactic, every flaw in their strategy. Humanity's intelligence network was growing with each passing second, learning, adapting, and preparing for the next engagement. Back in the council chamber, alien delegates watched the unfolding events in disbelief. Screens displayed the retreating fleet, crippled not by superior numbers, but by the ingenuity of a species they had long dismissed. Ilarion, the council chair, spoke gravely. "The humans have done what no other civilization has achieved. They defended their entire planet without overwhelming firepower. They are remarkable." Zytrax of Kael'nari could only roar in frustration. "This cannot be. They are insignificant. We cannot allow this embarrassment." Leora's voice echoed across the council feed, calm and unwavering. "Insignificance is a perception, not a fact. Humanity fights not because we seek glory but because we must protect what is ours. Any attack on our home or our children will meet the same ingenuity, coordination, and resolve you just witnessed." Across Earth, families remained oblivious to the full scale of the battle. Children slept peacefully, their laughter and dreams untouched. But above them, humanity had sent a message louder than any weapon: the era of underestimation was over. Commander Yarrick turned from the holographic display and addressed the operators around him. "Today we've shown the galaxy something important. Humans are not fragile, predictable, or insignificant. We are adaptable, relentless, and unyielding when defending life. And anyone who forgets this will pay the consequences." Leora's voice joined him, firm and resolute. "We were silent in the council, observing, learning, preparing. But silence has a limit. Today humanity awakened. And from this day forward, the galaxy will never mistake patience for weakness again. Above Earth, the stars shimmered in the aftermath of the first strike. Alien vessels retreated, fleets reeling from defeat at the hands of a species they had mocked. Below, humanity's defenders returned to orbit, ready for whatever came next, united by a singular truth: the protection of life was not optional, it was sacred. And somewhere deep in the council, whispers spread like wildfire: underestimate the humans at your peril. The battle had ended, but the war for respect, recognition, and survival had only just begun. The aftermath of the first strike left the galaxy in stunned silence. Alien fleets had retreated, their confidence shaken. Commanders once certain of humanity's weakness were now forced to reconsider everything they thought they knew about Earth. The Intergalactic Council, too, had been shaken to its core. What had begun as a minor skirmish had evolved into a demonstration of human ingenuity, resilience, and an unyielding will to protect life. In the council chamber, a somber hush filled the air. High Chancellor Ziritha's many eyes flickered with uncertainty. "We underestimated them," he admitted, his voice low. "Their defenses, their coordination, it defies our calculations. They do not act according to patterns we recognize." Ilarion, the council chair, leaned forward, his luminous form reflecting tension. "We must acknowledge a truth we have ignored for centuries. Humanity is not a species to dismiss lightly. Their ingenuity, their adaptability, and their determination are unmatched. They fight not for conquest but for the preservation of life, a force we have not comprehended." A young delegate from the Vorin collective whispered to their neighbor, "We thought they were fragile. We thought they would be easy to intimidate. How could a species so young and seemingly insignificant achieve this?" Leora Venn, projected on the council's central holographic display, remained calm, her gaze steady. She knew the council had begun to fear what they had previously ignored, and she seized the moment to deliver the message humanity had waited centuries to convey. "Your fleets attacked our home. You threatened our children. And in doing so, you forced humanity to reveal what we have long observed and prepared for," Leora began, her voice resonating across the chamber. "We are not here to conquer, we are here to survive. To protect life. To ensure that the next generation has a future worth living. Every strategy we employed, every maneuver we executed, was designed not to kill, but to demonstrate one simple truth: humans cannot be underestimated." The chamber fell into silence. Alien delegates, many of whom had overseen galactic empires for millennia, found themselves struggling to respond. Humanity, the youngest and smallest species present, had forced them into reconsideration, not through sheer force but through precision, intelligence, and moral clarity. Ilarion raised his hands to quiet the murmurs. "Perhaps it is time to reconsider our approach. The humans have proven that they do not fight like any other species. They combine strategy, adaptability, and willpower in ways we cannot predict. To threaten them again would be folly." Ziritha's translucent form flickered slightly. "And yet, they do not wield the weapons of war as we do. They could destroy us with technology we have never imagined. Their intelligence networks, their defenses, they adapt in real time. We have no model to predict their response." Leora's expression hardened. "This is why we remained silent in the council for centuries. Not because we were weak but because we were patient. We observed, we learned, and we waited. Every civilization that underestimated humanity has either forgotten us or misjudged us. Let this council remember, humanity is not passive. We are not insignificant. And if threatened, we will act with precision, creativity, and unity beyond what you can imagine." A delegate from the Cellari Dominion, a species known for their mastery of psychic influence, spoke hesitantly. "Perhaps, our assumptions about strength have been flawed. We have relied on numbers, fleets, and overwhelming firepower to dominate. Humans rely on something else. Something more fundamental. Love," Leora said softly but with conviction. "Love for life. Love for family. Love for those who cannot defend themselves. That is our strength. That is what you failed to calculate. And it is what will guide our actions from this day forward." Whispers spread through the chamber, fear and respect mingling in every corner. Delegates recalculated their strategies, taking into account a species they had once dismissed. The humans had proven that defense could be more powerful than offense, that ingenuity could surpass raw strength, and that the desire to protect life could surpass even centuries of technological superiority. Back on Earth, Commander Yarrick Solon coordinated further preparations. He and Leora had already anticipated that the Council might attempt negotiations or retaliatory strikes in the coming days. Humanity's response would not be reactive, It would be preemptive in strategy, defensive in intent, and unwavering in purpose. Let them come, Yarrick said to Mirakel. They now understand who we are, and they will think twice before threatening our people again. But this is only the beginning. Every move we make must be precise and every action calculated. They may have learned caution, but we will teach them respect. Leora activated Project Aegis at full capacity, ensuring that Earth and its orbital defenses remained impervious to surprise attacks. Every satellite, every hidden drone, and every AI-controlled defense system operated in perfect harmony, demonstrating the culmination of decades of preparation. For the first time in the galaxy's history, the Council recognized that humanity's silence had been a deliberate choice, not a weakness. They had underestimated patience, observation, and moral resolve. Humanity had not only survived, they had asserted dominance through intellect, strategy, and heart. Ilarion finally addressed the Council, his voice grave. Let this be a lesson to all species here. Humanity is not to be provoked, dismissed, or underestimated. They are defenders, strategists, and survivors. Their actions today have changed the balance of respect in the galaxy. And we must recognize that the era of assuming humans are insignificant has ended. Leora's image faded from the council chamber, leaving delegates to digest the magnitude of what had occurred. In silence, they acknowledged a truth they could no longer deny. Humanity's strength was not in their fleets, their weapons, or their technology alone. It was in their ingenuity, their unity, and their unbreakable will to protect life. Below, on Earth, families remained unaware of the cosmic recognition their species had just earned. Children laughed in playgrounds, teenagers debated in schools, and parents went about their daily lives. But above them, humanity's defenders stood vigilant, ready to respond to any threat with precision, strategy, and the indomitable resolve that had been forged over millennia. Yarrick turned to Leora, his expression firm yet proud. They finally see us, he said. They see what patience and preparation can accomplish. And now they'll never underestimate humanity again. Leora nodded, her eyes reflecting determination. They threatened our children. That was their mistake. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive lightly. From this moment forward, the galaxy knows our resolve. And we will protect our own, whatever the cost. For the first time, the Council understood that underestimating Earth was no longer possible. Humanity had awakened fully, and the turning point had arrived. The galaxy would never view the humans as insignificant again. The galaxy had changed. In the days following the first strike, word of humanity's ingenuity and resilience spread like wildfire through Council communications and independent intelligence networks. Delegates and commanders alike spoke in hushed tones of a species that had turned perceived weakness into a weapon more powerful than fleets or superweapons. On Earth, life carried on seemingly normally. Children ran through parks, families gathered for meals, and cities buzzed with the hum of daily life. Yet above the planet, orbital stations, hidden bases on the Moon and Mars, and covert satellites monitored every movement in space. Humanity's vigilance was unwavering. Leora Venn stood before the human delegation, now fully recognized as a symbol not just of diplomacy, but of leadership, courage, and the embodiment of human ingenuity. Beside her, Commander Yarrick Solon oversaw the coordination of Earth's defenses, his calm authority a steady presence amidst the tension. The Council has begun to understand, Leora said quietly, addressing the room. They know that humans are not to be underestimated. They know that threats to our children will never go unanswered. And they know that patience and strategy are our weapons, ones we wield with precision. Yarrick nodded. They've seen our defenses, our intelligence networks, and our ingenuity. But they've also seen something more. They've seen what humanity is willing to do to protect its own. And that is something no calculation, no fleet, and no weapon can ever predict. A message arrived from the Intergalactic Council. Ilarion, the council chair, had requested a private audience with Leora. On the secure feed, his luminous form shimmered, conveying both respect and unease. Ambassador Venn, Ilarion began, your species has proven remarkable. We acknowledge our underestimation. The galaxy has long assumed humans were insignificant, and for that we apologize. But now your people have demonstrated a power beyond mere technology, strategy, unity, and moral resolve. We seek to establish a new accord, one based on mutual respect. Leora's expression remained calm but resolute. Respect is earned, Chair Ilarion. And humanity does not seek conquest or dominion. We seek only to protect life, our families, our children, and our future. Let this be clear, any attempt to threaten Earth or its people will be met with the full measure of our capabilities. Across the council, delegates began to reconsider long-held assumptions. The Vorin Collective, the Selari Dominion, and even Zytrax of Kael'nari, all had witnessed the humans' brilliance. They realized that Earth was not a planet to be dominated, but a civilization to be respected. Back on Earth, humanity prepared not for war but for vigilance. Orbital stations hummed softly, drones patrolled the skies, and AI defense systems continuously recalibrated. Humanity's strength had been revealed to the galaxy, but its greatest power remained its people, adaptable, creative, and united. Yarrick and Leora stood side by side, overlooking the glowing holographic map of Earth and its orbital defenses. "We've sent a message," Yarrick said, "one the galaxy will never forget. But now we must ensure it is remembered, not just by fleets and empires, but by every generation to come." Leora's gaze swept the room. "Humanity's promise is simple. We will defend life, protect the innocent, and uphold our home. We have remained silent for centuries, observing and learning. But silence has limits. From now on, humanity will speak with clarity, act with precision, and defend what is ours without hesitation." In the days that followed, humanity established a new presence in the council. Not as conquerors but as equals. Humans contributed to discussions with intelligence, strategy, and diplomacy, earning respect not through force, but through ingenuity and moral authority. Their actions sent a resounding message across the galaxy. Underestimate us and you risk the consequences. The alien fleets that had once threatened Earth had retreated, wary of further confrontation. Their commanders now hesitated, cautious of a species whose strength could not be measured by firepower alone. Humanity had proven that true power was not just in technology or numbers, but in intelligence, creativity, unity, and the will to protect what was most precious. In a quiet moment on Earth, Leora walked among the children of her planet. Their laughter filled the air, oblivious to the cosmic drama that had unfolded above them. She knelt to tie a child's shoelace, smiling gently. "We've protected you," she whispered. "And we always will." Commander Yarrick joined her, watching the sun set over Earth's horizon. "They've learned to respect us," he said. "But more importantly, they've learned never to threaten what humans hold dear." Leora nodded. "And that is the greatest lesson of all. Humanity remains patient, observant, and strategic, but when our home or our children are at risk, we awaken fully. And the galaxy will remember that." Above, orbital drones continued their silent patrols, AI systems ran quietly in the background, and hidden defense arrays waited, ready. Humanity had spoken. Humanity had acted. Humanity had risen. And the promise was clear: Earth would remain free. Humanity's children would remain safe. And the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. For the first time in history, the youngest species in the council had commanded respect not through fear, but through courage, intelligence, and love. Humanity had remained silent, but that silence had been a choice. And now humanity had spoken. The universe listened.